So I'm Jaclyn Brady. I am the Chief Operations Officer at Thrivefuel. Most of you are from Thrivefuel, so you already know that. When Carissa asked me, she asked Jason, and Jason had me do this. So my first thought was like, why should you listen to me, right? Managing a remote team is a relatively new thing, but I was operations director for retail. And while I didn't have technically a remote team, I did manage 4 different stores in 3 different cities. So that was my introduction to managing people I couldn't see. Then I was at BBM and I managed a hybrid web development team that were local, out of state, and offshore, which was a new task for me. So I learned a lot of things not to do. And now at Thrivefuel's been doing remote and hybrid for quite a while, before COVID, which is when most people kind of made that shift. But they made a lot of mistakes, we're learning. So this presentation is kind of a mix of things that I've already done that have worked and initiatives that I am currently working on to improve our remote situation at Thrivefuel. You guys probably know most of this, but there's been a significant shift to remote work and hybrid workplaces since COVID. It started before COVID, but COVID rapidly sped it up to the point that, I'll go back. Approximately 25% of all professional jobs in North America were expected to be remote by the end of last year. It didn't quite hit that, but it is expected to increase this year. Concentration of remote workers so I've had a lot of people say, I'm leaving my job, I'm looking for a different job because I want to work remotely and they won't let me do that. Let's be real, not every industry, not every job works remote. There are certain positions that you have to be in the office. You can't work from home. I'm sorry, but you can't. But remote work does work very well in the kind of industries where you have highly skilled, highly educated knowledge workers who can do tasks that don't require them to be in the office. You'll see a lot of creative jobs, digital tasks, research, things like that. And everybody, during COVID, work was completely remote. That is changing. The ideal, what they're predicting now is a hybrid workplace, which is a little bit of both. That's good and bad. From an employer standpoint, the fully remote option is cheaper. You don't have to have an office. You don't have to have all that overhead. You have a team that's not centrally located, so it's a lot cheaper. But there's struggles with that too. Hybrid, you kind of have to fund both. So Thrivefuel's a good example of that. They downsized their office significantly and turned it more into a shared space. So nobody has an office. Even I don't have an office. We all work together in kind of a bullpen situation, and we come and go as we need to. So we have a boardroom where everybody can meet with clients, or we can have meetings or whatever we need to do. But when people need to focus on the work they need to get done, they go home. Or they work from different states on vacation, on the beach. It just depends on where they're at. I haven't tried that one yet, but looking forward to it. A lot of companies have started offering this hybrid model as a perk to get people to come work for them because workers are requiring it now. The difference between an actual hybrid workplace and it just being a perk is that when it's a part of the workplace, it's functional. It has a purpose. It makes people more productive. It's just better. If it's just a perk, then you have the freedom to work from home 1 day a week. Or, you've been working really hard on this project, you work from home next week. That is not a hybrid workplace. That is a perk. If you are gonna shift to a hybrid workplace, there are some really important questions that you have to ask yourself. Where are your employees gonna be working from? What is the impact of you not switching to hybrid, which right now is a pretty significant impact. Reasons for why you're switching to hybrid work. The future work week structure, is it still gonna be 8 to 5, Monday to Friday? Are you gonna allow people to work at night? How's it gonna work? And strategies for making hybrid work more productive. So hybrid workplace combines the two. So I found this interesting. They're estimating that by the end of this year, 39% of knowledge workers around the world will work in a hybrid arrangement. And in the US, fully remote and hybrid workers are expected to account for 71% of the workforce. That is an insane amount, considering how many people work here. Like, that's, I mean, when it was talking about, you know, knowledge industries, and I was like, that, not 71% of the US is not knowledge industries. So that means more and more industries are figuring out a way for their employees to work hybrid or remote. So what are the benefits? The benefits of a hybrid workplace for employers include cost efficiency, increased productivity, an expanded talent pool, which is perhaps the number one, and increased employee retention. Increased cost efficiency. Again, you can downsize the size of your office. You don't have to have as much equipment. Most of your employees cover their own, it's part of their salary to cover their own internet, some of their hardware, some of their software. Increased productivity. I found this one interesting, found that teleworkers during COVID-19 were on average 35 to 40% more productive than their in-office counterparts. That is significant. That is why people are demanding that we go this way. I didn't put it in here, but they were saying this shift in the United States workforce is the biggest change since World War II. Like, this is a significant, and it's not going anywhere. This is here to stay. So the expanded talent pool, I personally think, is one of the greatest benefits to having a remote or hybrid workplace. We have employees from all over. We have employees in California. We have, when I was at BBM, I had employees all over the place. So you're not limited to the people who work in Victoria. I've lived here most of my life, and I've worked here most of my adult life, and everywhere I've ever worked, the biggest complaint was there's nobody to hire. There's no skilled workers here. Like, people are going to school and they're moving out of Victoria and they're not coming back, and we can't hire anybody. Well, now the world is your oyster. You can hire from anywhere in the world. They don't have to live in Victoria. The downside to that is your competition has quadrupled. I mean, you're not just competing with, like, for Thrivefuels, we're not competing with other local agencies. We're competing with every agency in the world, pretty much. So there's good and bad. You have expanded talent to choose from, but you've also got to increase your benefits and what you offer these people to get them to come work for you. The other benefit is employee retention, because, like I said, people are quitting the jobs they have and sometimes taking a pay cut so that they can work from home. So what are the benefits for employees? My team can attest to this. Improved work-life balance. The last job I had, I was in the office all the time, and I worked 70 hours a week, and I never saw my family, and I never hung out with my dog, and I never cleaned my house, and things got out of control. Now, I work from home 4 days a week, and while I'm on a call, I'm also putting my clothes in the washing machine, and I'm, making myself something to eat. So I can attest to it is a much nicer work-life balance. I will say, for the employee side, that you do have to have some control over yourself, because when your workspace is in your house, it's very easy just to stay there or keep working at your kitchen table or hang out in your living room and continue to do work. So in this environment, you really do have to say, it's 5 o'clock, I'm done. I am at home now. I'm not at work anymore. Flexible working hours and location. We have unlimited PTO at Thrivefuel, so our employees can pretty much take off whenever they need to. This also means that they can go travel to some really cool places and work from there. I've had some interesting backgrounds on virtual meetings with people that I'm like, man, that's not fair. I don't want to be there. That's not cool. Another example is, like, sometimes when I've just had enough of being in my office, I work from my porch, on my porch swing. Not right now, it's too damn hot, but during the winter. I don't know about you guys, but one of my biggest complaints was always that I felt like I was chained to my desk from 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, whether I had work to do or not. When I was doing retail, it was like, I could get my work done really fast, and at 3 o'clock, I had literally nothing to do, but I had to be there. I had to be sitting at my desk, and I had to account for my time. That drove me insane. I don't have to do that anymore. I get to choose when I work. I know what my schedule is. I know how fast I can get work done. I know that I'm better in the morning than I am in the afternoon. So you have that power to choose what works best for you, when you're most productive, when you're most creative. So 43% of respondents reported that flexibility in working hours helped them achieve greater productivity. I know my team can attest to this. For me, 100%. When I get to choose where I get to work, when I get to work, what I'm working on, what my priorities are, I am much more productive. So what are the challenges? The biggest challenge that we are working on right now is communication. We are all trained to catch up with each other in meetings just like this, or around the water cooler, whatever that is these days. That is when we got our updates, or how's that project going, or what are you guys working on now? That doesn't exist. We are almost never in the same space at the same time. So all of your communication tools, your collaboration tools, there's no like, hey, look at this document and check it for me, or any of that. It all exists digitally. There are any number, the number of tools that are available now are incredible. Some are great, some are not. You would be shocked at how many of them are completely free. Like, you can get started without having to pay for any of them. But communication and collaboration is the biggest hurdle. It's really easy to have a remote team and you're just like, I trust that they're getting their work done. They know what they need to do. Like, they'll hit that deadline. But if you're not checking in with them, they have their own challenges. Like, how do you stay motivated when you're at home and nobody's checking in on you? How do you know that you need to get that task done if nobody's communicated that the priorities have changed? So this is where managers are even more important than they were in the traditional office setting. You have to be dialed in with your team, know what they're working on, know what challenges they're facing, and communicate any changes to what needs to get done, because otherwise they're not going to hear it, just hanging out in the office. That's not happening anymore. Maintaining organizational culture. We're struggling with this one. We have some team members that almost never interact with us. They are the kind of people that, what I call ostriches, they're very techie people, and they want to be left alone. They don't want to be in meetings. They don't want to participate in like group building sessions. They just want to do their work and be left alone. But that's not part of our company values, right? That's not part of our vision. That's not our culture. We want to be inclusive and collaborative and innovative together. So it's a struggle to pull in the ones that can hide at home and never have to interact. One of the more expensive issues, especially if you are technology challenged, is the infrastructure and technology it takes to have a hybrid team. It's not just internet and a computer. They have to have tools. They have to have good internet. What do you do with employees that live in the rural area that they don't have high-speed internet? What do you do for them? Secure data management systems is another issue, especially when you're dealing with client data such as credit card numbers and that bank information. You have to think about these things. There has to be a plan. You have to invest in the right technology infrastructure. 72% of employees said they never want to go back to the traditional way of working and expect a hybrid remote office model going forward. I have seen that for myself. When I start posting jobs and interviewing for people, people are applying to us because we offer a hybrid model. People are straight up quitting their regular day jobs and switching to whatever company they can find that offers a hybrid or fully remote option. And part of that is this market. You think about skilled workers, knowledge workers, that have gone to school and they have the experience, but in Victoria, they're stuck working behind a desk for a salary that doesn't match what the rest of the country is paying. And yeah, they're out of here. They don't have to stay here anymore. So communication and collaboration tools. These are some things that we are using or things that are similar. I've noticed a lot of people, what I call old school, traditional office people that have tried to go remote or try to go hybrid. They think email is it. Like, you just have to have email. That's the only digital tool you need to stay in communication with each other. It's not. It's awful. It's absolutely terrible. Email is still a useful tool, but it should be limited to client communication and for more formal communications that you need to document, such as updating an employee or them telling you that they accept a job offer. Those kind of things, definitely an email. But where it's really at these days is instant messaging and chat. Not like your Facebook Messenger. We use Slack, but I have also used Google Chat and Google Spaces. It's real-time communication. We have multiple Slack channels depending on what project it is, what department it is, what team it is, and it's like having a regular conversation, real-time, but not in person. And then Slack, for example, has tools where not only can you have a chat conversation, but you just click a little button and you're immediately connected like you're on the phone with the person that you're talking to. And you can share your screen, you can collaborate on a document together. I mean, the tools are incredible. You don't have to be in the same space anymore. Team channels, group chats, and Google Chat work similar. I haven't used Microsoft Teams, but I hear that it's very similar to Google Chat. This is great for informal communication and team building. We have some fun Slack channels like Random and Local Office, and interesting, it's kind of like sharing memes on Instagram or TikTok. Video conferencing tools, most people have used at least Zoom after COVID. That became extremely popular. The technology within Zoom and Google Meet has improved significantly since COVID. These are have-tos now, not just in a hybrid remote situation, but just a regular meeting space. We meet with clients, and it's incredible to me that a year and a half ago, I would have to have a conversation with a client and explain to them how to use Google Meet so that we could meet. And now they don't even think twice. You send them a Google Meet invite or a Zoom invite, they're ready to go. They know exactly what they're supposed to do. Screen sharing, presentations. One tool that we use a lot is recording and playback. When you have a remote or hybrid team, your meetings are happening virtually. And not everybody can be in that meeting, so we record them all. And then you have a library of meetings, so if somebody missed something, they get to go back and watch it. Cloud storage and file sharing, we use Google Drive. When I was freelance, I used Dropbox. I highly recommend Google Drive only because all of the other tools that comes with it, but OneDrive is similar. File sharing, you get quite a bit without having to pay for anything, and then you can just add on storage as you need it. We use it for pretty much I haven't found a file type yet that you can't save. It has collaboration tools built in, so if you're working on a document, your team members can leave comments, they can recommend suggestions and changes without altering the document. One thing I really love, when you have shared documents with your entire team, anybody can log in and make a change whenever they feel like it, and Google Chat or Google Drive saves versions. So I can always go back and one, see who did it, and two, fix it back to the way it's supposed to be. And then security and permissions. We use Google Drive a lot to share files with clients, but at the same time, you can set those settings. So you can share that document with just somebody who has the link, and they can be a viewer or they can be an editor. You can share it with your entire organization, or you can share it with specific teams. Project and task management, this I highly, highly, highly recommend. When I came on board at Thrivefuel, they didn't have this. We are actively working to get a project management solution in place. I have used ActiveClab, Trello, and Asana. We're currently working on building out Asana for our team. I don't know how anybody does project management without it in the digital age. And the cool thing about, I don't know about the other ones, but Asana starts off free. If you're a small enterprise and you don't have that many team members, Asana is completely free to start. Centralized communication, it has chat built into it, so you can communicate with your team on a specific project, task assignment and tracking. You can tell who's working on what the deadlines are, and communicate with each other what the progress is on that. It's really great for big projects. Everybody thinks like these tools are just for people who work in an office, but they're not. My husband has a construction company, and we use the free version of Asana to plan out an entire client project and have different milestones for different parts of the project, track budgets, everything. Communicate with our team, regular check-ins and progress updates. That has the feature where whenever you hit a milestone or whenever something's been updated in that project, you can immediately send a status update to everybody who's working in that project. Even not being remote in this day and age. Yeah. Well, yeah, and you think about like how much you're trying to keep track of in your head that you need to be working on. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, if I don't have clients, I don't need project management. That's not true. Just remembering what research I need to do or what projects I need to sign out or what meetings I need to schedule. I don't know I couldn't do it without it. This is specifically for people who have sales teams. I'm sure it could work for other things, but this is how we use it. Customer relationship management or CRMs, those have advanced so that like Monday.com is a project management system and a CRM all together. We use Thrivefuel 360, which is our own. So what these have is you have intake forms, and a lot of those forms have automations and workflows built into them so that when those leads come in, the automations automatically assign them to specific salespeople or send them into a certain funnel or put them into your workflow or project management so that you know who's been followed up on, who hasn't, what that client's doing, did they become a client, did they no-show, we've got those. Did that client cancel? Do you want to hit them back up a month from now, 2 months from now? So you can build all kinds of tools into that. And the nice thing about all of these is that it will integrate with your website or your email or your project management system. I mean, the integration is amazing. So no matter where your contacts are coming from, you can build them into a workflow, add them to your email list, and communicate with them in any way you want to. When teams function effectively together, they can have a greater effect than a single person. Clear roles and responsibilities. Okay, so this one is perhaps one of the bigger challenges that I have experienced in all of my different, not just remote, but especially in remote management positions. As teams grow, as tasks grow, as priorities change and duties change, it's very easy for your employees to just do whatever it takes to get it done. Like, it doesn't matter if this is in their lane, if this is in their original job description, if you grow faster than you communicate to your team members what their responsibilities are, then it very quickly becomes not so controlled chaos. You have people trying to do the same thing, you're doubling your efforts, balls are getting dropped because somebody thinks somebody else is responsible for that. It is so much worse when your team members are not all in one location. So me personally, this is one of the big ones if you go remote or hybrid. Explain to your team what their parts are, what their roles are, what their responsibilities are, and how the team is supposed to work together. Otherwise, every one of your team members is acting as an individual, just trying to get all of the work done. They're not collaborating, they're not working together. This is a process that we're working through. Before you can give people responsibilities, you have to know what tasks need to be done, what responsibilities exist, who's going to do what, identify gaps. We're identifying the holes in our processes right now. I found very useful. I am actually building out new job descriptions for every team member so that they have a very clearly defined, focused idea of what they're supposed to be doing and what they're responsible for. To do that, I used this matrix. RACI, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. So these are your major stakeholders in all of your teams. You have who's responsible for getting it done, who's accountable for keeping it going, who needs to be consulted on the progress, and who needs to be informed when it's finished. And that will help you determine what members of each team are responsible for each part that needs to be taken care of. Once you've figured all of that out and you've written your new job descriptions, it is then really important to communicate that with your team we are in that process now, and I'm trying to turn that into a conversation. This is the job description that I have come up for you based on what needs to get done and what your role is. What isn't on this list that you're doing that you think it should be? What have you been doing that doesn't fall into this so that we know to give it to somebody else? It should be a conversation, not just an assignment. Then, once you get through all that, document it so that the entire team has access, so that they know every single role in the company who's responsible for what. It used to have this mindset that when you signed on for a job, they gave you a job description and a salary, and you signed it, and you were like, okay, that's mine. And it was a secret that stayed in a folder somewhere, and everybody was just told what your job title was. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't matter what your job title is. If the rest of your team doesn't know what you're supposed to be doing, then that's really not helpful. What to do afterwards? Set clear expectations and deliverables, accountability, make sure they know what is expected of them, and then hold them to it. Prioritization and resource allocation. This is an important one. Just because you know what you're responsible for, you also need to know what is priority. You have to have the freedom, but also the education to know what can be pushed back, what needs to be moved forward. Minimizing communication and confusion. Again, if everybody can see your job description, then they know what you're supposed to be doing. There's no confusion on whether they're supposed to be doing that. This is another thing that we're working on building into our process. Regular feedback and performance evaluations. How many of you have worked at a place for a year and never had a performance evaluation? Yeah. So how do you know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, what you should keep doing, what you shouldn't keep doing? You need to have regular feedback, regular one-on-ones. It doesn't always have to be bad. It can be good. You really should have this whole, what are you doing right, what are you doing wrong, what do you need to start doing mindset when you meet with people. Improvement, motivation and engagement, alignment and course correction, and most importantly, recognition and rewards. I strongly believe in this. I've been fulfillment most of my career before I became a manager, and it was so frustrating to never be acknowledged for the work that I was putting in. And that doesn't mean I need a bonus. It doesn't mean that you should give me a gift card or a trophy. It just means, hey, good job. You're making my life easier. We couldn't get this done without you. This step gets missed a lot. It's really easy to be, here's all the things you need to fix. Here's all the things you're doing wrong, but never tell anybody what they're doing right. And with a remote team, they very quickly lose motivation and don't want to do any of their work, especially not at their top quality. When roles and responsibilities are clearly defined, team members look beyond their own individual position and learn to understand, respect, and value the unique contributions of one another. This is most important for teams. When you are in the trenches getting your work done, it's really easy to fall into that whole me. I'm doing everything. I am so overworked. What are all these people doing? Why do you keep messing up? Why are you making my job so hard? When you have that conversation of here's everybody's job description, here are their responsibilities, they are also working just as hard as you. It is a lot easier to see that top-down view of, hey, it's not just me. If I'm working this hard and I'm this stressed out, then the rest of the team probably is too. Communicating company goals and directions. This is one we're doing right now. So, as the company grows, again, your goals change. Your boss people, your managers, the top people, it's really easy to be like, okay, we're going to go in this direction now, and we're going to start doing this, and this is where I think we need to take the company. And then it stops there. All the managers are like, okay, we're going to get on that. And then the rest of the team has no idea what's going on. And all of a sudden, you have an entire team of people that are like, wait, what are we doing? How is this working? So, it is completely understandable that company vision changes, but you really need to communicate that to the entire team. Even better, you can ask them for their opinion and buy-in and ideas. When you do that, they are motivated and aligned in their efforts. You foster a sense of ownership, which inspires them to actively contribute to the company's success. Regular company-wide updates and town hall meetings. We are starting that now with regular team meetings and once a month all staff meetings so that everybody stays on the same page and stays aligned with where the company is going. Clear communication or priorities and objectives. It's really important to know what the priorities are. Sometimes, at least in our industry, things move so fast that what was a top priority last month is no longer even on the radar. But if you don't communicate that to anybody, then they're still working towards this, and you're over here trying to accomplish something that nobody even knows about. Utilizing digital platforms for sharing information and progress. Again, all of those collaboration tools help you keep people on track with the company vision and updated on what those priorities are. Maintaining company culture. When I was researching this for my team and ways to make everything better, this was one of the things that kept popping up. Personally, I don't know if I've ever worked anywhere that had a strong company culture, so this was kind of interesting for me. So, a strong company culture in a hybrid or remote workplace, or any workplace, is crucial for fostering employee engagement, collaboration, and a sense of belonging. How do you do that? What is a company culture? So, your company culture is determined by your core values. Lead by example. I have worked multiple places that had all these cool posters that showed what our core values were, and then I would see my management team not following any of those things, doing the complete opposite of it, and you're just like, okay, it's a joke. So this is like the cat hanging from a tree, remember, hang on till Friday posters? Just pointless. Integrate values into the employee life cycle. I remember starting at companies, getting a handbook, and there's this really pretty list of all the company values, and okay, here they are, and great, sign off, you read this handbook. Guess how many times we talked about the values after I was hired? Never, maybe once. You have to integrate it into everything, not just when you're hiring, but when you're advancing, when you're shifting people, when you're putting them on a new team, and most importantly, when they exit. Simplify mission, vision, and value statements. Don't make it so complicated that nobody can follow it. Or really, like in marketing, you take a really big message and you make it real catchy and easy to understand. Same thing with your values. So in a remote, I feel like this is true for most workplaces, but especially in a remote workplace, your managers have to foster trust with the people who work under them. That manager is their lifeline to the company. It is their lifeline to your entire team, your culture, everything, because that is the person that they're communicating with. They're not in the office. They're not getting that team building. So fostering trust is extremely important. How many times have you had a manager that you've gone to and you're like, I need these resources to get this done. I need some help. I can't do this all by myself. And they're like, yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, we're going to get right on that. We'll get you what you need. And then 6 months goes by, 8 months goes by, and you're still doing everything with no resources, no support. When you work in a regular office around people, it's really easy to stay in that because you're in it. I mean, you're going to work there every day. You're talking to these people. You build up these relationships with the people you work with, and you're like, yeah, this is tough, and I really don't like it, but I love all the people that I work with, so I'm going to stick it out. In a remote environment, you don't have that. You don't have those team members keeping people there. If you're unhappy, if you're not getting the resources and the backup that you need, you're not attached to anybody. So it's really easy to say, no, I'm out. I'll go find a new job. Again, lead by example. I have this big policy with managers. Don't ask anybody under you to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. Just because you're a manager, you shouldn't be doing it, but that doesn't mean that if in the thick of things they need some help and something needs to get done, you should be willing to jump in and do it too. I don't care what that is, whether it's empty. Our CBDO takes out the trash all the time. And again, she wouldn't ask anybody to do something that she wouldn't do herself. Again, provide feedback and recognition. This is especially important. I don't know if anybody besides us has offshore teams, but it's really easy to have an offshore person, then you don't think of them as a team member because they're like not here. They're like in a different time zone. They're not, so then you're just like they give you some, we've run into this where they deliver something and you're like, well, rather than trying to get through the divide that exists, cultural and, help me, what, my brain's not working. Language barrier. You just fix it. You just do it. Or you have somebody locally do it. Or you never communicate with them what they did wrong, how they can improve, what you want to see instead. And then we've gone months where you're still having the same issues and the same problems because you didn't give them any feedback. You just said, okay, great, fixed it. They never saw it again. And then they did the same thing the next time and nothing gets better. That's not just with offshore teams, but we have especially found that with them. Same thing with recognition. Tell them what they're doing right. Tell them when they're really getting it so that they'll keep going. Continuously improve and adapt. This is where we're at. You should constantly, like, don't ever think, oh, we got this. Like, we figured this all out and everybody's happy. They're probably not. You're probably not doing as great a job as you think you are. So that's where you need feedback too. There should be a give and take. Not only should you be telling your employees what they're doing right and wrong and what they should be working on, you should ask for that feedback back from your team members. If you're a manager, you should be open to getting feedback from the people under you so that you know if you're doing a good job or not. Promote engagement and team bonding. This is the fun stuff. It's really easy when you work in an office with people to have a monthly birthday party or a game night or a potluck or, hey, let's all go out for drinks after work. What do you do when your entire team is spread out across the country? You can't do that. So now after COVID, the world going as remote as it is, there are tons of suggestions for games and little activities that exist online that you can do completely virtual through Google Meet or Zoom. I've done the online office games, and trivia is a good one. I haven't tried a scavenger hunt. I kind of want to check that one out. But this tiny campfire one was interesting to me. So apparently this is pretty popular, where the company sends out a s'more kit and a tiny little tea light fire. And they send it to all their employees, and then they schedule a time, and everybody gets on Google Meet at the same time with their little fire and their s'mores kit, and they tell stories and all. I was like, that is genius. So basically, virtual team building games. Again, remember that half of your team members, unless they're working very closely on something together, they never have reason to talk to each other. They don't see each other in the hallway. They don't run into each other on the way to the bathroom. So they don't know each other. You're just a name. So it's really important so that everybody feels like a team that's working together to have team building exercises where they get to know each other. The surest sign of a strong remote work culture is a sense of belonging. If you have a remote team that you are not working towards building that team building activities with, you're not making them feel like they belong, you basically have an entire team of freelancers. I mean, that's what remote workers are, unless you find a way to include them with everybody else. So takeaways, 71% of the workforce expected to be remote or hybrid by 2024. It is almost July, so we're about 6 months away from that. So companies who are not offering that yet really need to get on it. Advantages, knowledge workers do not wish to return to the traditional office setting and are prepared to change jobs and even take a pay cut to obtain more flexibility. Remember that one that said they expect a hybrid workplace. They expect flexibility. It's no longer a perk that they're asking for. They expect it. Advantages and challenges, there are most definitely challenges. It is more tackling the old mindset of how an office works and trying to use technology to change how you do things. But the advantages, in my opinion, far outweigh the challenges. Effective management is crucial. Management is probably more important now in this kind of setup than it ever was before. Because, like I said, that manager is their lifeline. They're the ones checking in. They're the ones making sure you're still on board. I have heard horror stories where people had remote employees. That employee just quit without telling anybody, and nobody noticed for 3 months. 3 months. That's how disconnected they were.